Hi students, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Budapest, capital city of Hungary here in Central Europe. I am Canadian, if you're wondering about my English accent. Hi Zahab, hi Raki, hi Tamonish, Aman, Raminder, Prashant, Raki. Nice to see many students in the class. Hello members, Michael Fan and Hina Arshad. Welcome everyone in this class. We are focusing on part 3 of the speaking section, practicing for those elusive band 9 answers. Elusive meaning difficult to get, or answers that seem to avoid us. While we wait for some more of your classmates, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. We have lots of practice exams, fully interactive course with quizzes, help for speaking and for writing. For general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. Every month we help thousands of students to increase their band scores, improve English and communication. So check us out there. Of course, you can download our apps from your app store, Academic IELTS Help. You can link that to ahelp.com account. And General IELTS Help, you can link that to the gieltshelp.com account. All right, everyone, if you have questions, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. And this is the final class for this week. Of course, on Wednesday, I will be back with speaking part 1 and some more classes. I'll put up the schedule for next week later today. Okay, everyone, let's do a little bit of speaking just to warm up, a little bit of English speaking and maybe reading if it helps. So speak and repeat. Okay, do a lot of speaking and do a lot of repeating. Build your fluency, build your pronunciation, copy my intonation, copy my enunciation. Okay. All right. So yesterday we covered a cue card in class. Of course, the cue card is very important for part 3 because that will be useful for your answers in part 3, because the examiner will say, okay, now we'll continue with part 3. For part 3, I will ask you more questions related to the topic of part 2. So it's really important to make connections. It's important to do a good job in part 2 of your speaking. So let's start today's class. We are doing part 3 today, but we're going to start by reviewing yesterday's part 2 cue card question and answer. So here was the cue card from yesterday for part 2. Talk about a useful app that has helped you in some way. You should say, what is the app? Where did you hear about it? How did it help you? What could make the app even better? And then we did some great planning yesterday. We discussed how to come up with a good answer, how to build good structure and fluency, and then we gave this answer. So just speak and repeat, students. Just speak and repeat, okay? An app that has aided me several times over the past years and has immense utility in my life is Google Maps. It has a beautifully simplistic two-dimensional design with colors which are easy on the eyes and clear to interpret. It also contains pictures of venues and their address information. As well, there's a search bar which allows me to input any desired start and stop point. It has audio and voice command, so I can conveniently use it even when I'm driving or riding my bike. This is an app that was developed by Google in the early 2000s. It came pre-installed on every Android phone I've ever owned since its release. So the last time I got it was with my Samsung S10 from Vodafone. In fact, when I was in Venice in 2019, Google Maps was extremely helpful in navigating the labyrinth of the narrow streets that make up the city to find museums and even a pharmacy when I needed to get some allergy medication. Furthermore, it assisted me to find this exam center on time today and even warned me of a traffic jam and provided me with an alternate and faster route. A couple of ways that Google Maps could be even better is if it worked in all parts of the world, even remote forests and deserts, and if the information were updated every 24 hours to show changes in venues and routes. Finally, it would be highly valuable for many people like my grandpa if it had options for best routes for people with disabilities, such as commuting by wheelchair. Okay, that is the end of part 2. Your time is up. Please pass back the card, the pencil, the paper, and now we will continue with part 3. For part 3, I will ask you some more questions related to the topic of part 2. Let's talk about using software. What are the most popular types of software and applications that people rely on in their daily lives? Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. So, what are the most popular types of software and applications that people rely on in their daily lives? Now, keep in mind what I said. You want to make connections and give clarity for this. All right. So Beckjohn says, I think common apps that most people resort to on a daily basis are social media, such as WhatsApp and Instagram, and Google Maps, as I just mentioned. These kinds of software enable people to keep in touch with each other and show their exact location. Beautiful band 9 answer, Beckjohn. So Beckjohn is paraphrasing, giving me a few different apps because it's types of software. Okay, so types of software. So that's great. You're giving me more than one, Beckjohn, and you're giving a good explanation. That's fantastic. Nicely done. Nicely done. Okay. Roshni Kunte says, well, apart from the Google navigation app that I mentioned above, not above, but before, Roshni, because it's not paper, right? You're speaking. So one more time, Roshni. Well, apart from the Google navigation app that I mentioned before, individuals use all the time their favorite apps in their daily lives like Skype, Zoom, YouTube, since they are convenient and efficient. Careful, students, it's types of apps, not which apps, but types. So kind of the category of apps. Okay. When you hear types of, think categories. Okay. So types of, it means categories. For example, communication, navigation, entertainment, information. Okay, those are the ones that come to my mind. So if you haven't answered it yet, try to answer with some of these words. Okay. All right. Hassan, our member for a while, Hassan says, I think the most popular software used by many people on a daily basis is Outlook. It's a very handy application and not only used by companies, but also for business correspondence. Okay, Hassan, again, that's just one app, right? You're talking about Outlook. Outlook is a type of communication software, mostly email, right? But give more, okay, because it's types. So watch your plural, okay? So watch the plural here, all right? Okay. All right, let's see. Lots of great answers coming up. Mverma Coding says, I think this will depend on the individual, but in my perception, I love to use YouTube, Google Maps, Play Store, Instagram to connect with the world, and these apps are also very eminent. Mverma, don't say it will depend, okay? Instead, just answer it. Don't really use your own experience here, because look at the question. It's asking about people, not you. Okay, students, there's a really big difference between part 3 and part 2 questions. Part 3 is about people, part 1 is about you. Okay, so answer individuals, all right? Your answers have to be specific. The better your answers, the higher your band score, okay? You don't have to use a lot of fancy vocabulary and idioms, but you have to be specific and accurate with your answers. That's the most important. So this would be my answer to this question. The types of apps that are used day to day by most individuals are communication, navigation, entertainment, and information software like Skype, WhatsApp, Google Maps that I mentioned, YouTube, and Reddit. These types of apps help people not only to stay connected, but also well informed so that they know what is going on around them, like minute by minute updates on the COVID situation. Okay, so that would be your Band 9 answer, nice and fluent. Repeat after me again, and I'll explain a little bit more why. So repeat, speak and repeat. What are the most popular types of software and applications that people rely on in their daily lives? The types of apps that are used day to day by most individuals are for communication, navigation, entertainment, and information, like Skype, WhatsApp, Google Maps that I just mentioned, YouTube, and Reddit. These types of apps help people not only stay connected, but also well informed so that they know what is going on around them, like minute by minute updates on the COVID situation. Okay. Answer, explanations, examples, they're all in here. I'm making a connection to my part 2 cue card response. That was what we started with. I'm not using I, me, my. This is just generally speaking about people. Okay. Which of these is not so important? So now comes the follow-up question. Which of these is not so important? Okay. Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. Bister says, I think that apps like Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat are pretty similar, and people don't need all of them on their phones because they can connect with friends and family members using just one of these. Okay, so you're saying that some of these apps are redundant. All right, that works, Bisser. Sure, I'll take that answer. Seni Surani says, I think game apps are not too important to have because it's used for fun only, and these can be postponed or downloaded. Right, Seni, that's what I would have guessed too. So if I'm thinking logically, probably certain entertainment apps, especially game apps, they're a lot of fun. They're good to relieve stress, but at the end of the day, they're probably the least important of all of these apps in our day-to-day life. In fact, sometimes they're just a distraction from what we need to do, right? Peya Basak says, actually, it's difficult to answer which one of these is not important since I find all of them equally useful for me. I use Google mostly for academic purposes like preparing my assignments and so on. Peya, you start okay, but you need to finish strong. You still need to tell me which one you think is not useful. Okay, you're still not giving me a clear answer, Peya. Okay. Hassan says, certainly entertainment apps are not so important, particularly like doll games such as Snakes and Candy Crush. However, people find these games interesting because they want to kill time. Very good, Hassan. That would be a nice high-level answer. Yeah, gaming apps. Okay, think about it, right? We all have gaming apps, but we all know that although they're fun, they're not necessarily a game changer. No pun intended. Taral is my love says, although all of them have their own merit for humans, I think Zoom is not very important because there's another very useful app called Microsoft Teams, which has a lot more function. Okay, Taral, I'm sure Microsoft is loving you right now, but that's a good answer. Okay, so it doesn't have to be games. It just has to be a sensible answer. Samuel Sadir, our member, says, I think gaming and entertainment apps like PUBG and Candy Crush, when we have free time, helps us have fun, but these are of no particular use during our hectic daily work schedule. In fact, they can be oftentimes a distraction from getting our work done, right? Okay. All right. So, yeah. After a bit of thought, I would say that gaming apps are the least valuable to have, especially on a phone, even though they can be a release from the daily grind. I find that they are often a distraction from other responsibilities like work, school, and family. Such games like Candy Crush, Saga, and PUBG can take up a lot of valuable time. Sure. All right. Maybe some of you are hating me right now. You're like, but why? I love PUBG. I don't play it myself. I like playing Hearthstone when I have a bit of time to kill. We all have that little something. But anyway, it doesn't matter here. Here, what's important is that you get that band 9, right? So repeat after me. Which of these is not so important? After a bit of thought, I would say that gaming apps are the least valuable to have, especially on a phone. Even though they can be a release from the daily grind, I find that they are often a distraction from other responsibilities like work, school, and family. Such games like Candy Crush, Saga, and PUBG can take up a lot of valuable time. Okay? All right. Yeah, that works. Notice the contrast, even though. All right. Notice the idiomatic language after a bit of thought. That's natural language. Daily grind, that would be idiomatic language. Okay. So again, you don't have to use very complicated vocabulary, but you should put in some idiomatic language that you're comfortable with. Okay. All right. Next question. Let's keep rolling along, students, and I'll keep giving you strategies as we do this. Continue to remember your part 2 answer, which of course was Google Maps. So, how do most people use software? Give me a nice full sentence for this one. How do most people use software? Okay. Ayana, that was a good answer, by the way, with the pre-installed apps. Okay, a little bit late, but it was a good answer. Amanjot Kaur says, well, different people use different software in different ways, like WhatsApp. Students use YouTube to study and for entertainment, but many people use it in other ways, like watching the news. Okay, Amanjot, it's not bad. Again, students work on giving specific answers, so don't give these wishy-washy answers. Everybody knows what wishy-washy means. Another way we say it is loosey-goosey. Okay, it kind of means like there's no clear purpose or direction to the answer. Even if that might be true, that different people use apps in different ways, instead of saying that, Amanjot, explain how different people use apps in different ways. And you do a little bit of that, but I'd like to see even more of that. Okay, I'll show you what I mean in a bit here. All right, Tenzin says, well, these days, due to advancements in technology, most people are using apps on their smartphones in a variety of ways. Okay. How do most people use software? That can mean a couple of things, right? That can mean technically how do people use software, and it can also mean for what purpose. Okay, so think about both here. All right, that was a little bit of a tricky part of this question. If you just answer one, it's okay, but if you catch both, it's good. So this could mean the technical way of using the software, as well as the purpose of the software. Okay, notice how different people are interpreting this in different ways. That's because it could be both. All right. Shido Jidin says, well, recently, especially during the lockdown, people are using their phones for entertainment as well as communication purposes, but there are some exceptions, like students using it for studying. Yeah, so Shirojidin, you looked at the purpose, right, instead of the technical way. All right. Samuel says, well, people use entertaining apps like YouTube and Netflix to watch a series such as Friends to pass the time, and sometimes learn educational and scientific information like from BBC documentaries. Okay, Samuel, I made a few corrections in real time. Pay attention to that. Okay. Alex Joseph says, although most commonly people don't know about software, there are pre-installed on mobiles. Chatting and gaming applications are used often. Furthermore, there's software developed by IT companies. I'm not sure where you're going with that last sentence, Alex. Make sure to stay on topic. Zaid Nawafa says, there are a big part of app users who utilize their own apps in their daily life, buying and even passing time. Nowadays, they are an immense number of apps that can reduce the desired effort of costs. Zaid, I'm a little bit lost at the end of yours as well. So clarity is important, students. So most people use software or computer programs on their PC or their smartphones through touch, typing, and voice command. Like me, with Google Maps, I tell it where I want to go, and it gives me information. Through these ways and devices, I use software for work, study, and entertainment, as do most other people. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little trick here that I'm doing. Okay, again, as I said before, you don't want to use I, me, my a lot in part 3. You want to keep it general. However, you can kind of do this interesting what's called toggle between general, personal, general. Okay, toggle means to switch back and forth. So here again is the question, how do most people use software? Okay, this doesn't necessarily mean the purpose. It means technically, like how do you use it? Okay, so you input information in some way through an input device, like the screen of a phone, you touch it, or through a keyboard by typing or by speaking into a microphone, and then you get some output on the screen and through the speakers, right? So most people use computer programs on their PC or smartphones through touch, typing, and voice command, like me with Google Maps. I tell it where I want to go, and it gives me information through these ways. So notice how I go from general, right? So general public, because it's most people, it's not you, okay? So it would be incorrect to start with I use my. So I start general with most people, okay? And then here I switch to like me with Google Maps. Why? Because that's a specific example and it helps me to explain, right? Also, it connects to my part 2 answer, because in part 2 I talked about an app that's useful for me. That was the question, and that app was Google Maps. So here I'm making that reference, that connection, right? So there's my reference. Like me with Google Maps, there's a missing I here. I tell it where I want to go, and it gives me information. Through these ways and devices, so I'm still at the personal, use software for work, study, and entertainment, as do most other people. So I go back into general. Okay, and that's a nice technique in speaking, and it works well for part 3 also, where you start with general, you switch to a quick personal reference, especially connected with part 2. Okay, and then you switch back again. So that's what I was calling the toggle technique. Okay, so you toggle between general, personal, toggle back to general. Okay, does that make sense? Is that clear how I did that? Okay, everybody's clear on that toggling between the general, personal, back to general? Rajveer says, I got it. Yep, Roshni, Shurdijidin, yep, got it. Okay, good. So it's a good technique, all right? The toggling. All right, so then you might get a question like this. Can you elaborate? That's a very popular follow-up question, which means can you give more details or can you give more explanations? And you should always provide some more information, another perspective, when you get this kind of a question. Can you elaborate? So go ahead, students, elaborate for me on this, how most people use software. Okay? All right. Beckjohn says, yeah, sure. Like when I first used my Google Maps, I didn't know how to calculate the time and the length of the road, but thanks to the guides on the app, I'm able to know exactly the amount of time in advance and reach my destination on time. Like yesterday, Google Maps showed me that it takes 10 minutes to get to a nearby shop, and it took exactly that amount of time. Okay, yeah, so you went into a specific example, Beck-John, and that's good. Okay, so their personal example or a general one is okay. When you hear this, can you elaborate? It's okay to go into a personal example. Just make sure you don't go off topic. Okay, make sure to stay on top. Really specifically stay on topic. All right. If you can, of course, practice giving third-person examples as well. All right. So, Alex says, and as I mentioned earlier, the ever-increasing technology and globalization has made life easy with these popular software like Facebook, Google Maps. Not only do these gadgets help to study, but they also help to stay connected. Alex, I'm not sure if you're actually elaborating on how people use these apps. So again, here the question is, the full question is, can you elaborate on the ways that people use these apps? Okay, so again, don't just think of the way, but think of the technical. Okay, so Hassan Sadiq says, yeah, sure. After installing software, it gives step-by-steps on how and elaborates for users on how to use the application. Also, they can contact the system service to get further help as well. Very good, Hassan. That's a great answer so far. And Hassan continues, furthermore, digital natives have a significant experience nowadays in apps naturally. I'm not sure what that means, Hassan, so careful not to overspeak and become incoherent. Okay, if you've made good sense. When you hear this, can you elaborate? You don't need to give too much details. So, sure. Most devices have both input and output features like screens, speakers, and mics. And of course, when users install apps, there is usually a user guide for the first session. When an individual installs Google Maps and opens it for the first time, the app takes the user through a let's make that simpler. The app gives a walkthrough that describes the features of the app. Okay. All right, so that's the idea. All right, so again, this is, can you elaborate on the ways that people use these apps? So sure, most devices have both input and output features like screens, speakers, and mics. And of course, when users install the apps, there's usually a user guide for the first session. When an individual installs Google Maps, they open it for the first time. The app gives them a walkthrough that describes the features of the app, and then they're able to use the functions that it's designed for. Okay? All right. Here we go. Next question. Is there any software that are negative for people? That's a thinker. So let's get to that one. Is there any software that are negative for people? All right, Seni Surani says, the apps which are created for bothering common society that are considered as negative apps. The society and the government have arranged regulations to be obeyed by people. Seni, I'm not sure what kinds of software you're talking about. Rifa says, yes, of course, there are many apps which are not good for people, but obviously it depends on the user. Think about it, students. When there's a question like this, it's a good idea to buy time so you can come up with a good answer, okay? Good answers matter on the speaking section, especially in part 3. So I want to give you a hint here. Answers matter a lot, especially in part 3. So it's not a good idea to try to answer as quickly as possible. Don't be afraid to lose your score on fluency. Because students who try to speak too fast, too quickly for every question usually don't do as well as students who take a little bit of time to think about some of these answers. So think before you speak. I'm not the one saying this. It's an ancient and wise saying. I'm sure you've heard many people say this, maybe even your parents. Think before you speak. So buy some time. Okay, there's a very clear answer for this one, and I'm wondering if any of you are recognizing this. I'm sure some of you will. Okay, so buy some time to come up with the right answer. Okay, don't give a wishy-washy answer like it depends. Okay. All right. Bisser says, yes, some apps might be invented by scammers and corrupt people who want to take advantage for their data. Yeah, okay, very good, Bisser. So different types of hacking apps or software. Absolutely, that's what I was thinking of, okay? Very nice. It's good that you came up with that. Mustafa Ahmed says, some of us are sorry, let me try that one more time, Mustafa. Give me a second here. So Mustafa Ahmed says, some apps are specifically designed to get people addicted to them by giving them a small dose of dopamine through messages, short funny videos, leading to a waste of time and productivity. These are definitely negative for society and for individuals. Okay, good answer, Mustafa. Finish the idea with these are definitely negative for individuals or for the users. Okay. Lambda Discover says, of course, first of all, a person needs to register and get membership to start using it and introducing their initial and final destination. I'm not sure, Lambda, how that connects to this question. Mushkan Nisha says, yes, there are some apps which influence people negatively, like blue whale game apps, in which people take risks, and I think TikTok also has negative effects on children. Okay. Yeah, Maksud, I will put this part 2 and part 3 on the community board later for sure. Okay. Raminder Singh says there are several software that have negative impacts on the lives of people. For example, gaming software, which addicts many people and results in a wastage of time. These also have adverse effects on health because people don't exercise, right? Raminder, very good. So, yeah. Yes, there are certainly some damaging software for people both mentally and physically, and even financially. Certain gaming apps like PUBG can waste a lot of time, and people ignore the importance of exercise, instead opting to play these addictive games. Also, phishing, I believe it's spelled like that, phishing software. This is a special spelling for phishing. Okay, if you're going fishing for fish, it's spelled with an F. This is a special PH phishing. So also phishing software is designed by scam artists to steal personal information like credit card numbers for later criminal activity. All right. One more time, students, repeat and speak. Is there any software that are negative for people? Yes, there are certainly some damaging software for people, both mentally and physically, and even financially. Certain gaming apps like PUBG can waste a lot of time, and people ignore the importance of exercise instead opting to play these addictive games. Also, phishing software is designed by scam artists to steal personal information like credit card numbers for later criminal activity. Okay. All right. And then how about for society? So are there any apps that are negative for society? That would be the full question. Okay. So are there or is there software that is a negative for society? Okay. Give me a nice answer for this one. Ayana Aboime says some gaming apps that are inclined to violence and brutality should be kept away from users like children because they're very negative and children can become aggressive. These in turn would also have a bad impact on society as children could grow up to be delinquent, meaning they create criminal activity. Good, Ayana. I added some information there, and I see that you're adding some as well, and that's good. Okay, so because it might have a negative effect on their development, their attitude, and personality. Ayana, use affirmative language. Okay, instead of saying might have, use affirmative language, it will have. Okay, that's a little tip, students, to make your speaking better. Okay, so in most cases, you should use affirmative language instead of modal language. So in most cases, use affirmative language instead of modal language to deliver clear and strong information. This will get you a better band score. Okay. See, look, I'm using affirmative language. Instead of saying this might get you a better band score, I'm saying this will get you a better band score. So use affirmative language. Instead of saying this might or may, you think that you're sounding polite, which is okay, but at the same time, when you sound polite, you often sound weak. And in the IELTS, you don't need to sound weak. You need to sound affirmative, okay? So instead of saying this might or may, say this does or this can. This does or this will. Okay? Affirmative language is, in most situations, better than modal language. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right. Zaid says Tinder is one bad app that may harm the relations between family members of couples. It's used by many for forbidden relationships between strangers. And this has a negative influence on society. Okay, very good, Zaid. So Zaid says, yeah, sure. I think the types of software like addictive games and phishing apps are bad for society too, but in addition to this, certain dating apps are often misused such as Tinder to engage in adultery that leads to the breakdown of families. And as people know, families are the foundations of society. Okay, very good. Thank you for that, Zaid. So I took your idea and I elaborated on that a little bit. Repeat after me, students. How about for society? Yeah, sure. I think the types of software like addictive games and phishing apps are bad for society too, but in addition to this, certain dating apps are often misused, such as Tinder, to engage in adultery that leads to the breakdown of families. And as people know, families are the foundations of society. Okay? Adultery is when people get into physical relationships outside of their legal marriage. Okay, that's adultery. All right, it's called adultery. Easy way to remember it is adultery. It's a criminal behavior as well. Okay. All right, and then you'll have a follow-up like, can you elaborate? Okay, so can you elaborate? All right, elaborate. You should always be able to elaborate. So can you elaborate? I'm going to elaborate while you elaborate. So I can. Okay. What I mean is that certain apps create easy opportunities for users to engage in unethical behavior that results in various forms of injury, physical, mental, or financial, as in the case of misusing Tinder, divorce, and broken families. Okay? All right. So always be able to elaborate, go into more detail. Okay? You have to practice that. That question's coming at you in part 3, so be ready for it. Paya says, certainly, my 5-year-old nephew got addicted to a new 3D war game, which resulted negatively on his psychology. After consulting a psychologist, he suggested us to keep him away from those violent games. Okay, Paya, that's good. Yeah. So you're elaborating by giving an example. Very good. Satisfying times. Always a pleasure to have you hop in on the class. Our former long-time member, Chabi. Chabi, you passed IELTS with some good marks, but you come back and visit us. I like it. It's great. It's very nice of you. Chabi says it's known that these apps are leading some people to loneliness and mental problems, which will return badly on society and will definitely break the known boundaries and create spaces between families and friends. Okay. Good. Very nice, Chabi. All right. Okay. Mayo is asking, how long does it take to move from a band 3 to a band 7? Mayo, honest opinion, to go from a band 3 to a band 7 takes at least a year of focused, full-time English studies. That means learning English from morning until night, 6 days a week, 52 weeks in the year, and then you can move from a band 3 to a band 7. Ishu Kumar says people like Elon Musk in the past developed many good apps like PayPal, and with a good mind, people like him can be leaders for a good future. I think that's off topic, Ishu. Okay. You're planning to sit it again, Chabi. Okay, I see. All right, students, then if you're doing a good job and you're nice and fluent, the examiner will continue with a few more questions. So in every case, the examiner does their best to reach that 12-minute mark. And for those students who are very fluent through part 1 and part 2, you can get quite a few questions in part 3 because they will get to that 12 minutes, sometimes even 15 minutes, depending on how many students and how busy they are, but they'll never usually cut it shorter than 12 minutes, or they shouldn't in most places. So they'll ask you a few more questions here, a few more questions for you to practice on your own. This video is recorded. It will be on the channel. You can watch it again in about an hour. And I will post these questions and answers on our YouTube channel community board, as well as on our blogs on our website. So all of our materials go up on our websites, onto our blogs. And of course, you can watch a lot of HD videos there. And students, you can practice speaking for free in your My Student account. When you log in at the top, there's free speaking practice with other students. I'll show you that real quick for the weekend so you use it. Okay, so when you log in to the website, there's the student partner speaking button. There's always students looking for other IELTS students to practice with. And you'll probably, yeah, there you go. See, so right now you'll see these students are in the website looking for other IELTS students to speak with. There's Jean-Louis Sanchez, Abhishek, there's Mert, there's Zahab. So make sure to use that free speaking option. You can obviously video chat, you can text chat, and you can phone chat. And there are some questions as well that you can use. We're going to be updating and adding more and more to this all the time. So again, that's in your My Student account in the general and academic version. Have a great weekend, everyone. Fantastic week behind us. Great studies, great answers, students. Much love to all of you. Visit and join us on our websites. It's good for you. Bye for now. I'm Adrian, signing out from Budapest. Much love. Take care.